Hello and welcome to another edition of Another Book Review. This week I'll be reviewing Jon Krakauer's nonfiction work, Missoula. I'll talk a little bit about the author because it is nonfiction. I'm not going to have any plot, obviously, but I will talk about some takeaways from the book, what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it. Finish off by talking about who I'd recommend the book to, and then what I will be reading for next time. Before we get started, just kind of a warning. This book deals with the main topic of the book is sexual assault, specifically on sexual assault on college campuses, specifically the University of Montana. So if that's something you find disturbing, please just take this warning and switch off now. I'm not going to be going into any kind of graphic detail, but it is a subject matter I know a lot of people have a hard time hearing discussions on, so I just want to give that a heads up. So just to get into it, Jon Krakauer is an author best known for his, probably still best known for Into the Wild, which was made into a movie a few years back. I've never gotten the chance to read any of his stuff. I know he does a lot of magazine writing as well as nonfiction stuff that's pretty well known. My understanding is most of it is taking kind of a journalistic approach to nonfiction. Certainly that was the case here. This book is the examination of about 5 years of sexual assault cases, allegations, charges in and around the University of Montana campus. The University of Montana was subject to a Department of Justice investigation around the time that the book was written. So a lot of the book deals with the system built around the reporting of sexual assaults on campus around that time. The book goes into 3 different cases specifically with 3 very different outcomes, and it examines sexual assaults not only on the campus but also how they are investigated, as well as how they are tried both in a university, I guess, court, for lack of a better word, and a criminal court, as well as kind of the court of public opinion. So it's kind of all of those things. I think he does a great job of using his resources, and I flew through this book. It went by really, really quickly. I was surprised by how quickly it went. I thought that the cases that he chose to illustrate his points, I think, were all really interesting. I think the main takeaway that I had from it is just how blind and unfair are probably not the words that I would use, but it didn't seem to. I think you want to believe that the criminal system has a rigorous standard that's applied equally to everybody, and I don't think that that was necessarily the case. I think there are some things that are just inherent in sexual assaults that make them different than other violent acts, which puts a wrinkle into it. He also kind of points out very wisely that when you have a system that is built upon 2 sides arguing, the prosecution and the defense, things like the defense's job is to put doubt in someone's mind who's on a jury, and in a sexual assault case, that's really best served by almost slandering the other person, and they're kind of within their purview to do that, however fair or unfair that is to the person who's the victim of the crime or alleged victim. And he kind of talks about how that system doesn't really serve really anybody very well. You also, what I was surprised to learn is how wide the sentencing guidelines are for sexual assaults in Montana. It was anywhere from no jail time to literally 100 years. And I was a little shocked by that. And then you kind of just realize like how much leeway, how much range the prosecution has on whether or not to bring a case to trial, whether or not to accept plea deals, things of that nature, whether or not to take the police's recommendation of whether or not it should go to trial. And those things and those kind of tensions between the groups, I think was really interesting. There was one case in particular where there was a student who did not have criminal charges pressed against him because I believe the prosecutor chose not to bring it to a trial, but he was by the university court, found guilty of the assault, and so he was expelled from the school. And that whole system and the different burdens of proof was also something I thought was interesting. I think the only downsides to it that I had, like I said, whether or not you're going to like this book, I think, is whether or not it's a topic you're interested in learning more of. I think he does a pretty good job of remaining fair to all sides. I think he shows empathy to almost all sides. I think there was one or two places on one of the few things I didn't like about the book. I think there was one or two places where he interpreted facts in a way where he kind of interjected himself into the work and his own personal opinion. And I thought that the facts that he interpreted didn't need his interpretation. I thought that was a little upsetting. I think he also at the end kind of gives his recommendation for the campus system of determining whether or not someone has or has not committed a sexual assault on a campus. His recommendation, in my opinion, is undermined by the example that he uses earlier in the book, where I think a reasonable person could look at the standards that were used and the people who were doing the judgments in that case and have real questions about it. So I didn't need that part of it at the end either. I kind of disagreed with his opinion. I think he kind of puts out an alternate opinion to his preferred method of doing that and kind of shoos that away really quickly, and I didn't think that was necessarily done in an intelligent way. But other than that, I thought I really enjoyed, I mean, it's a hard book to necessarily enjoy, but I felt I learned a lot about this subject and just the difficulty that the victims go through, not only in the event, but reporting it. And they basically, in one of the cases, they had to, even after someone was already in jail, had to follow the I guess it was almost a parole hearing in a way that you would not think someone would have to do. So if it's something you're interested in, I know the subject matter is difficult, but I thought it was a really well-written book. Other than the issues that I kind of have raised, I would recommend it to somebody who's interested in learning more about that subject. And for next time, on a totally different note, I'll be reading Lovecraft Country by Matt Ruff. As always, please feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Until next time, bye.